Did Disney just pull off the most audacious casting coup, or capitulation, in recent memory? The whispers echoing through Hollywood corridors are becoming impossible to ignore. Rachel Zegler, the already controversial choice for Snow White, might be out, secretly jettisoned by the very studio that championed her. And the rumored replacement? Brett Cooper, a personality practically forged in the fires of the culture war, from the opposite end of the spectrum. If these rumors hold water, this isn't merely a recasting. It's a seismic cultural event, a potential sign that relentless audience pressure and bruising PR battles are forcing a major studio to execute a dramatic, public-facing reversal. Forget the fairy tale on screen. The real story is a high-stakes corporate gamble involving power, politics, and a potential Hollywood realignment that could redefine how blockbusters are made. The fuse was lit the moment Rachel Zegler's casting was announced. While some lauded the choice as a step towards modernization, a vocal contingent of fans immediately expressed dismay, feeling the casting deviated too sharply from the cherished original. But this initial unease quickly escalated into a full-blown inferno, largely fueled by Zegler's own public statements. In interview after interview, she appeared surprisingly critical of the 1937 animated classic she was tasked with bringing back to life. Describing the original film as weird and pointedly labeling the prince's pursuit as that of a stalker didn't sit well with legions devoted to the Disney canon. Her remarks minimizing the importance of the love story, suggesting Snow White's ambition was leadership, not romance, further inflamed the situation. It struck many not as thoughtful reinterpretation, but as outright dismissal of the beloved source material. Coupled with comments that seemed to brush off the significance of the role, Disney found itself trapped in a relentless cycle of damage control. As one exasperated critic pointed out, the expectation is for stars to champion their multi-million-dollar projects, not to publicly dissect their flaws or offer unsolicited commentary on global politics. Zegler's outspokenness transformed potential marketing buzz into a persistent PR headache, actively alienating the very audience Disney needed to win over. This growing wave of fan discontent, however, was only part of the equation Disney was grappling with. As Zegler's controversial soundbites went viral and calls for boycotts intensified, particularly from organized conservative groups already critical of Disney's perceived political leanings, the pressure inside the executive suites reportedly reached a critical mass. The financial and reputational risks associated with Zegler embodying one of their most iconic, family-friendly princesses apparently became untenable. That's when whispers of a soft exit strategy began to circulate, a discreet but decisive maneuver to distance the project from its star. The term unofficial no-hire blacklist started cropping up in insider reports, a potentially career-crippling consequence, suggesting Disney wasn't just recasting, but sending a message. More tangibly, eagle-eyed fans began noticing Zegler's digital footprint shrinking. Her image allegedly started disappearing from updated promotional artwork, her presence minimized in behind-the-scenes features, her name less prominent in press materials. It was as if Disney initiated a systematic scrubbing, attempting to digitally uncouple Zegler from Snow White before the film had even locked picture, shifting perception from our leading lady to persona non grata with startling speed. Simultaneously, as Zegler's position seemed increasingly precarious, a parallel drama was unfolding around another Snow White adaptation, spearheaded by a different rising personality. Brett Cooper, who had gained significant popularity under the banner of the conservative media powerhouse The Daily Wire, was slated to star in their own rival production, provocatively titled Snow White and the Evil Queen. This project, developed for their Bentkey children's streaming service, was explicitly marketed as an antidote to Disney's woke interpretation, a return to traditional storytelling and values. Cooper was prominently featured in early teasers, positioned as the wholesome alternative to Zegler's modern take. But the narrative took a sharp turn late last year when Cooper suddenly and unexpectedly severed ties with The Daily Wire. Immediately, all marketing and development for their Snow White project ground to a halt. The film, whose identity was intrinsically linked to Cooper through contracts and branding, seemed dead on arrival, leaving fans puzzled and speculating about the reasons behind the abrupt split and the project's sudden demise. Cooper's departure from the Daily Wire wasn't merely a professional parting of ways. The digital breadcrumb suggested a far more acrimonious and personal breakup. Within days, Cooper hit the unfollow button on the Daily Wire's official accounts and several of its prominent figures on social media. The most symbolic digital dagger, however, was the deletion of a well-known, previously celebrated wedding photo, featuring Cooper alongside Reagan Conrad. Conrad, another Daily Wire personality, controversially stepped in to host the comment section, the very show Cooper had built. Deleting that specific image, a public symbol of camaraderie, felt intensely personal, akin to setting a digital bridge ablaze. Adding fuel to the fire, Cooper's own mother was reportedly seen liking fan posts online that bluntly labeled Reagan a backstabber, a subtle but loud confirmation of behind-the-scenes bitterness. When pressed in interviews about her relationship with Reagan post-departure, Cooper's responses were notably guarded and tense. Admitting they weren't friends anymore, she vaguely alluded to the difficulties of adult friendships, leaving a palpable sense of unresolved conflict hanging in the air. This visible awkwardness and social media drama hinted at a deeper, fundamental rift, a creative and ideological battle over the soul of Snow White herself. Sources suggest that a primary driver of Cooper's split from the Daily Wire stemmed from profound disagreements over the tone and direction of Snow White and the Evil Queen. The Daily Wire, whose brand identity is deeply rooted in provocative commentary and engaging in the culture wars, allegedly aimed to imbue their fairy tale adaptation with pointedly anti-woke themes and subplots. Their goal, consistent with their content strategy, was likely to provoke liberal critics and rally their conservative base. Cooper, however, reportedly had different aspirations. She saw the Snow White role not merely as another volley in the culture war, but as a potential launching pad for a mainstream acting career. She purportedly advocated for a more classic, universally appealing, and politically neutral interpretation of the fairy tale. A timeless story, not a timely polemic. When it became clear that the Daily Wire intended to use Snow White primarily as ideological ammunition, the creative differences likely became irreconcilable, pushing Cooper to seek opportunities elsewhere. And so, the stage was set for the most shocking rumor of all, with Brett Cooper suddenly a free agent, untethered from her own Snow White venture, and Disney grappling with the escalating fallout from the Zegler controversies. The unthinkable started to be whispered. Could Disney actually be considering Brett Cooper, the former face of the anti-Disney Snow White, to step into the glass slippers vacated by Rachel Zegler? The sheer audacity of such a move is staggering, representing a complete ideological reversal. Why would Disney contemplate such a potentially incendiary swap? Industry analysts suggest it's a complex calculation rooted in risk management and brand rehabilitation. Bringing Cooper on board could serve as a powerful olive branch to the conservative and traditionalist demographics who felt alienated by Zegler and the film's initial direction. It would be a dramatic, undeniable signal that Disney is course-correcting, potentially stemming the tide of negative press and boycotts that have plagued several of their recent releases. It's trading one firestorm for another, certainly, but Disney might perceive the Cooper controversy as more manageable or even strategically advantageous in the current polarized climate. This potential casting gymnastics act transcends the fate of a single film. It potentially heralds a significant recalibration within Hollywood itself. For years, the prevailing studio strategy when facing backlash over diversity initiatives or progressive updates to classic stories was often to stand firm, implicitly or explicitly, painting critics as resistant to change. Disney's apparent willingness to backtrack on Snow White, evidenced by the rumored Zegler distancing, the shift back towards traditionalism, and the Cooper speculation, could mark a turning point. It suggests that sustained vocal audience opposition